Welcome to Voice Notes Suck with Jay and Dave.
Series 2, Episode 3, AI, Music versus the Music Industry. AI is transforming the music industry, but is it for better or worse? From democratizing music production to challenging the originality and integrity of art, AI tools are opening new doors and raising big questions. Today, we're breaking down the impact on indie artists, the risk of fast food music, and how major labels are responding. Let's tune in.
Jay, I hope you're well. We're at episode 3, season 2 of Voice Notes Suck, and this one's about AI, music, and the industry, or the music industry. And it's fascinating because there's so many different aspects involved in here, from people making their own music to bands, musicians, artists, producers, up to big artists, big names, live performances, record labels, big producers or production houses, and then your normal content creator that's now got access to this vast suite of music tools and they don't need musicians for it. It's fascinating. With what's happened specifically recently with things like Suno.ai, where anyone can make a song and it sounds incredible.
So I've just got out of a very nice warm bath and I've heart emojied your voice note because this has been a major part of my life since I was about 7. 1987 I started singing and writing songs, and music has been an integral part of my life for decades. So for me, when AI music came along, I was instantly very interested because I've always experimented with as much as I possibly can. When music came out on the Sony PlayStation, a music sequencing program, I used that. Well, me and my friend used that, and we'd record stuff, and we'd record into our 8-track cassette recorder, which we loved experimenting with. We had synthesizers, we loved experimenting with those. We had sampling keyboards, we loved experimenting with those. It's like the most amazing thing to experiment with. The problem is if you just use it as it is and think that something amazing is going to happen, because I think there's going to be a lot of disappointed people out there, darling.
I can understand where you're coming from with the end of that, and that's a lot of time exploring, playing, writing, making music, and we see the output of that. I mean, you've just passed 500,000 listens with one of your songs with All Hail Hyena, which is just a monumental achievement. And testament to those years of hard work and exploration and experimentation that you've gone through. I see this as genuinely enhancing, like producers of music, electronic music, people that are now making music in their quote unquote bedroom, with decent computer programs. Like AI music's only going to amplify their ability to make incredible music. What do you think the risks are to the industry? Let's start there. With your experience in music, I think it's important to qualify why I'm asking you this question. You're an independent artist and you've got some experience with the record industry. I'd love to know how you think this is going to impact them.
Well, with things like Suno that actually create full tracks, I think there's a huge risk to the library music industry, stock music, royalty-free music. I think that's under threat from those things because it is so high quality. It's not there yet. The fidelity's not there yet, but it's still very impressive and it's still perfectly acceptable for the average listener because the average listener doesn't care. And I think that's probably one of the issues, is that a lot of people listen to music on the phones. I think there's a very small population now of people who listen to music properly on a stereo. A lot of people listening to music through like Alexas and Googles and Google Dots and stuff like that. So, and laptops and everything like that. So I mean, people are keen on headphones, which is good. But the major music industry, I think it's a get out of jail free card for those guys. I think they've been struggling for a lot of years, and I think AI is going to start creating a new resurgence of older artists creating newer songs.
I might have had to delete a message, but you might have already listened to it because it could have been the summary for episode 2. Anyways, we'll say less about that. The the points you made there are interesting. I want to delve into them both in a little bit more detail, and I don't know which one you want to come back to later. But the music library thing is fascinating, and I hope that can help content creators and help individuals push and promote their brands. But my worry is that it will only help the social media platforms because they'll build up their library and people will naturally use that. So that's my concern with that aspect. With record labels and music producers, you think this will benefit them and drive interest into those, like you say, pre-existing artists, the established artists, well-known ones. What makes you say that? What makes you think that that's going to be the case, and that people aren't going to be driven towards the new kind of content like that we've just talked about, where people are making visual content and adding music from a music library, for example?
So, Universal Music have recently signed a deal that lets them use the voices of their artists. So basically, artists do sign that, and then they'll be able to license their singing voices to new compositions, to different artists, to new artists, even artists that aren't here anymore. Because a lot of these major labels, when artists sign contracts with them, pretty much own everything about them. You know, they own all the master rights and all that stuff. So it's kind of giving them a little bit of a free ticket, a free meal ticket to eat the artists and spit them out in a recycled form. Imagine, there's every chance that they're going to be releasing new stuff by people like Michael Jackson, Prince, things like that. Prince would be controversial, wouldn't it? I bet he would have absolutely hated it to its core, Prince.
Well, there's something that I hadn't thought of, like all of that. I mean, I guess my brain was aware of it, but I hadn't thought of it. And the Beatles used AI, didn't they, in there to release their new song, or Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr did. Anyways, yeah, there's a subplot there about Prince that I'm unaware of. I'm guessing he was against technology and had questioned AI before he passed away. And he was an incredible guitarist, absolutely incredible guitarist, wonderful musician. That's fascinating and interesting, and actually really problematic to potential new artists and original artists as well.
I'm not fully sure if it's going to be problematic. I feel it's going to be disruptive. It's almost like AI is like the punk rocker that comes in and starts shaking things up and stirring things around, with this attitude and sass. And I feel it's going to give independent artists something extra to the toolkit, which they don't have. Major artists and the major labels will have it too. We know this. It's never going to be any different. Very difficult to compete with the major music industry. You can't. You have to be part of it if you want to do anything with that. And it's not for everyone. And so AI, in a lot of ways, is a new thing for independent artists to start experimenting with again. We're going to see some fascinating music styles coming out of this. I know it for a fact. It's going to be pretty wild.
I'm gonna come back to you later on in this episode and ask you what styles you might be predicting. But before that, how's this going to be disruptive in your mind? How is this disruptive? other than offering a new toolkit, like what ways does it potentially disrupt the status quo that currently exists in the music scene?
Well, it will give independent artists the tools to compete with the quality of commercial releases. AI can simulate expensive reverbs. It'll be able to master audio a lot better and to professional, releasable broadcast quality. And that's really one of the main things, alongside the automated processes as well that AI can bring to independent artists, like just things like mailing list shoots and just scheduling posts and all that kind of basic sounding things that major labels usually have massive teams for, whereas an independent artist won't need a massive team. They could just use AI. In theoretically, if they're on the job, a band could use AI, for example, to do the work of a huge team that they would normally use at a major label.
Okay, that's really interesting, and is kind of counter a little bit to AI being used to reproduce or recycle or regurgitate traditional existing artists. This gives new independent artists and existing independent artists access to essentially the same toolkit that record labels have got. Is that right?
100%.
It's interesting, Jay. It's so interesting. Established artists and record labels probably aren't going to see that much change from what you've said. And new artists, emerging talent, have got this whole range of tools, this suite of tools that they can use to help push themselves forward at a level that maybe emerging artists have never been able to push them forward, which kind of means the gap and the people really impacted by this are the independent artists out there at the moment who've been creating for a period of time, who maybe haven't got the visibility or success or aren't willing to sign themselves up to a label. They're the people that are going to be really impacted by this.
At the end of the day, though, the thing that matters the most, ultimately, is creativity and originality. And if we start seeing AI generated music that's not original, or it's really obvious it's AI, then people are going to turn off. That's the perils, I think, of opening the doors to independent artists in that way, because not all independent artists, and I know this sounds harsh, but they're not all that good. It takes a certain kind of something to have original music that's going to hit home and resonate with people. We're in an age where everyone can make music, fine, but I think people mistake that for making things that are appealing or that really touch you in a core, and a lot of it doesn't.
I wonder if everything becomes replicative or generic or samey. We know what we like listening to. We're told what we like listening to on top of that. It's pushed at us from all sorts of different avenues, and now anyone can make music that way. Do they just create what's already being created? And do we end up just making music even more generic than it already is, essentially? Don't know. It's interesting. What new sounds have you made with AI, Jay? What have you done? What have you created? How are you exploring and making new sounds, new music with AI tools?
I'm not. That's it. I'm not using it yet because I don't. I've experimented with it in regards to creating like lo-fi chill music, which it is very good at, and you cannot distinguish between lo-fi chill music that you might hear on Lo-Fi Girl YouTube stream or Suno creating lo-fi chill music. There's no there's no distinction. That's very, very good. When it comes to stuff with vocals and things, it's a curiosity, you know. It's a curiosity, and it's fun to listen to. And I've put lyrics in and generated songs that way. Did it with All Hail Hyena as well. Put some of our songs in to create alternative versions of our songs, which is weird and interesting. But that's where it stops. I think it's just weird and interesting. I would never want to release it, you know. But I don't know. It might be good for creating samples. That's an area I'm going to look at. Creating sample beats.
So yeah, I've noticed a lot of people, it's given them extra sort of resources and extra promotional material and an ability to sort of make, you know, content quickly and efficiently. You look at Bram at the Mumsles, or you know, Prism and Songs at MIDI Punks, for example. They've been playing with Suno and it's helped them with their content. I'm like you, I haven't used it very much, and when I have used it, I've only played with it. And I'm not a musician, so like I would be that retail user just playing with it and having fun. Have you heard any new sounds from AI music? Have you come across anything that you haven't heard before and it's been produced or made entirely by AI?
No, I haven't. I haven't heard anything. I don't know if I want to either, to be honest, because I feel like there's a certain kind of, what's the word? Oh no, I can't think of the word, Dave. There's a word on the tip of my tongue. Sacred. Sound is sacred. I don't feel like visual art is sacred specifically. Sound is sacred. And I feel like we're treading on ground where sound has the power to change your body. Sound has the power to move mountains, dude. And if we're messing around with sound in regards to AI, we've got to be producing something that's just breathtaking. Like, I'm talking breathtaking, and there's nothing.
That's really interesting because what would be breathtaking? What would be game changing? Like, and unless we're willing to listen, how will we ever know if it's game changing or not? We're relying on other people's opinions and perspectives of that sound. It's an interesting field. I For me, what AI music has done the most is enable brands and businesses and creators or creatives to have extra content and help push themselves forward. And yes, that means that there's a loss of revenue for people that were potentially doing that job and were getting paid for doing that job, for producing music, for having sound libraries, all of that stuff. But that there was still a barrier for, if you didn't have much of a budget, there was still a barrier for creatives there. And I think that barrier's gone. And that's the most exciting thing for me with AI music and a lot of AI is reducing those creative barriers for people to help them make their own dreams come true.
Well, I disagree, though. I mean, it's not on, it's reducing the quality. It's almost like people think you have to have music. You don't. Yeah, the whole point of music on something really is to evoke a response, is to evoke emotion, is to add and contribute to what it is that you're looking at. And AI music does not do that. And just because it's a tool for creatives to put music on the stuff doesn't mean that it's going to be good. And it just doesn't resonate very well at all. It's frustrating actually because again it devalues music. We've had the same argument with art. We're going to have the same argument with music. But from a personal standpoint, music has a more sacred place in our world. We communicate through music very, very deeply. We're always making sound. Sound is very important. And a lot of this AI music is just muzak. I'd call it muzak. It's like walking into a lift and hearing music. You know, it's like ultimately, really, what's the point? I feel like we've got into a habit of just using absolute pap music on content that just doesn't hit home.
That's interesting. See, I don't see that as an AI problem. I see that as a content production problem, and I don't see AI as being the cause, because I think there were plenty of rubbish music producers out there making dreadful music and selling it at prices that creators couldn't afford. I wonder if it's the insistence that all content should have music, and I think a lot of that comes down to TV, film, documentary production, and creating that expectation, not just from the creative, but from the audience as well. And I still think, and I still believe that AI, things like Suno, they reduce the barriers, and like, people don't have to pay for that content if they want it. If they want to make it good, then they've got to put the work and the time and the effort in, or they've got to pay someone to make it good. But if they just want it available, like, it's there for everyone. And that wasn't the case. I don't even think that was the case 6 months ago, but it's the case now. And I find that exciting.
Don't you think that that's too much of a disposable way of treating music, though? I do. It's like fast food music, isn't it? And you know, Suno and the other music generation AI thing, I can't remember the name of, are being sued by two major record companies for infringement of copyright.
Oh, it's oversaturated like everything else, Jay. And some people will be fighting for control. I don't see it as a problem. It's no different to art or written content or promotional content or anything else that's out there from my perspective. And to take nothing away from your perspective, but for me, it's not an issue. It's exciting, it's exploration, it's, yeah, we can't change it if we're outside of it. Like, we've already had that discussion. So get in there, be playing with it, make that masterpiece, show people the potential. That's what I'd say to people who have the feelings that you've expressed. And final point is, of course they're suing. Of course they're suing. Just like all of the authors that sued ChatGPT, the writers, the journalists. Like, people are worried and they're scared that they're going to lose their market share and their market power. So they're fighting that. That's just, it's the nature of markets. It's the nature of people. It's the nature of organisations and business. Like, they don't want to lose what they've got. It makes a lot of sense.
It's true, they don't want to lose what they've got, but I also think they're trying to basically keep the integrity of music and art. That's probably another agenda. That's probably another reason. The danger as well for me, especially with AI generated music, is the person making it thinking they've made the music, because human beings, as a rule, are very, very good at convincing themselves of things. And if someone comes along and they're like, oh, listen to this song that I've made, and all they did was put some lyrics in, that's not taking anything away from the lyrics, that's fine. But they didn't do anything with the cadence, they didn't do anything with the melody, they didn't do anything with the arrangement, they didn't do anything with the performance. All they did was decide a genre and put some lyrics in. For me, that's not music. I don't think. I think that's something different. And I think we need to be careful of people thinking that they are songwriters in inverted commas, when in actual fact it's all being created by AI.
I just lots of agreement for that message. I think that rings true for all AI creativity. The person using AI is the director, not the creator. They haven't written the story. They haven't made the film. They haven't made the music. They, do you know, I'm with you fully, and I think that's an important thing to remember. All of that aside, though, Jay, we've got to the end. We're flying over 20 minutes, and we could keep talking about this forever, but we've got to stop, and we need a summary. And I think it's your turn.
Well, a summary would be thus: AI's integration into music production, with major labels training AI on their artists' voices and licensing them out, poses a risk of market saturation, potentially, and mediocrity, but also challenges traditional market shares and reduces creative barriers for indie artists, which could foster increased competition. AI offers a vast suite of tools that can amplify creativity and provide high quality production capabilities to any musician, democratizing access, very important. However, it does risk producing bland, generic content, which is a bit like fast food music, potentially devaluing the sacred nature of music. And the third point is the need to protect creativity and originality is paramount. So the concerns about AI regurgitating existing styles and sounds
Now, while AI encourages experimentation and opens new opportunities, there is a crucial debate on whether major labels are safeguarding the integrity of music or merely their market dominance. Thanks for listening to episode 3 of series 2, AI music versus the music industry. Before you go, we have a question for our Spotify listeners. How do you feel about AI music and AI tools for music? Let us know by answering the question on Spotify and we'll explore some of the answers on X. You can find all our links in the description. Make sure you check us out. Dave's been Dave. I've been Jay. See you next time for another episode of Voice Notes Suck. You've been listening to Voice Notes Suck with Jay and Dave.